Most children grow up slowly. They explore, they play, they learn at the pace of their curiosity. But some children, through experience, circumstance, or internal pressure, grow up faster than their years. This isn't just about age, it's about psychology. What does it mean to develop adult thinking before your time? And how does that shape the rest of a life? The phrase "grown up too fast" often lacks nuance. It sounds like an emotional label, but psychologically, it describes a set of patterns in thinking, emotion, and identity. These children don't just act older. Their internal world reorganizes earlier than expected. Their minds stop treating life like a game. They start treating it like a sequence of problems to solve. One core reason this happens is adaptive responsibility. Some children learn early that the world won't wait for them. They witness instability, family conflict, financial strain, emotional unpredictability. They begin to anticipate outcomes rather than react in the moment. This is not maturity in the healthy sense. It is pragmatic anticipation. It is the nervous system saying, "I must prepare before the world demands it." This changes the structure of thinking. Psychologists describe this as cognitive acceleration under stress. Instead of developing at a pace set by curiosity and safety, the child begins to develop at a pace set by threat, uncertainty, or need. Their attention shifts from exploration to prediction, from play to problem solving, from expression to analysis. This shift feels like adult thinking, but it comes at a cost. Emotionally, the child who grows up too fast often learns early to dampen emotional expression. Not because they don't feel deeply, but because emotion is unpredictable, and unpredictability feels unsafe. So they down-regulate emotion. They observe rather than react. They keep internal tabs on direction rather than living in the moment. This is survival psychology, not choice. When we think about childhood, we often imagine freedom. But psychology shows that human development is shaped by environmental demands, not just chronological age. The child under pressure doesn't postpone worry until adulthood. They begin worrying early. And the worry becomes a kind of internal rhythm, a quiet scanning of what's next, what might go wrong, what needs to be controlled. This is how their inner world gets structured. Another component is role reversal. When adults around a child are unavailable, emotionally or physically, the child starts to fill the gaps. They become caretakers of mood, behavior, or even adult responsibilities. This isn't maturity, it's forced adaptation. The mind says, if I don't step up, no one else will. And the child's identity begins to include responsibility, not exploration. Over time, this accelerated psychological development creates patterns. A strong internal observer, minimal emotional venting, early self-reliance, low tolerance for unpredictability, high awareness of social signals. These patterns can look like competence, and sometimes they are, but they often come with unseen edges, a tempered emotional world, a bias toward control, and a sense that vulnerability is costly. Critically, children who grow up too fast don't always recognize this in themselves. To them, this way of thinking feels normal. They don't miss what they never experienced. They miss what they never saw others practice. Freedom, play without stakes, curiosity before consequence. This also affects relationships later in life. Such individuals may struggle to relax emotionally, default to caretaker roles, prioritize problem-solving over presence, avoid dependence on others. Not because they don't want closeness, but because their internal early world taught them to expect instability unless they self-regulate first. Psychology also tells us that adulthood doesn't erase this pattern. It amplifies it. When life demands responsibility again, the person who grew up fast feels prepared. But when life demands presence, play, or ease, they often feel awkward, because their early development didn't include the lessons of stillness. This brings us to an important insight. Growing up fast is not inherently negative. It's adaptive. It's a survival strategy. It's a structural pattern in the psyche. But it is not maturity. Maturity is not speed. Maturity is integration. Integration of emotion, identity, and presence. Many people who grew up too fast eventually find themselves in the paradox of comfort and unease. They know how to solve problems, but they don't always know how to rest. They know how to organize life, but they don't always know how to experience it. Understanding this is not a judgment, it's a map. As these children grow older, the early structure of their mind doesn't disappear. It becomes refined. The same awareness that once helped them survive childhood becomes the lens through which they experience adulthood. They often develop a heightened sensitivity to patterns. They notice shifts in tone, changes in mood, unspoken tension. This isn't intuition in a mystical sense. It's pattern recognition trained under pressure. Because of this, many people who grew up too fast appear emotionally intelligent. They read rooms well, they anticipate reactions, they understand consequences before others do. But this intelligence was built on alertness, not ease. And alertness, when sustained too long, becomes exhaustion. Another common trait is hyper-responsibility. These individuals often feel responsible for outcomes that aren't fully theirs. They feel uneasy when things are left unresolved. Silence can feel heavy. Uncertainty can feel dangerous. So they step in. They fix. They manage. They carry. Even when no one asks them to. Psychologically, this comes from an early belief. If I don't handle this, something will fall apart. That belief becomes internalized, not as a thought, but as a reflex. And reflexes are hard to unlearn. As adults, they may struggle with rest, not because they don't want peace, but because peace feels unfamiliar. When the nervous system has been trained in vigilance, stillness can feel like neglect. So they stay busy, not always outwardly, sometimes only internally, thinking, planning, anticipating. Relationships can also reflect this pattern. People who grew up too fast often attract those who need guidance, stability, or support. They become anchors. But over time, this can create imbalance. They give clarity, they give reassurance, they give structure, and quietly they forget to receive. This doesn't mean they lack emotional depth. In fact, they often feel deeply, but feeling deeply was never prioritized early on. Function came first, emotion came later, or not at all. So emotional needs were postponed, sometimes indefinitely. Psychology doesn't view this as damage. It views it as adaptation. The mind organized itself around what was required, and what was required was readiness. The important shift happens when awareness enters the picture. Because once someone recognizes, I grew up fast, not because I was ready, but because I had to. Something loosens. The identity softens. The nervous system gets permission to slow down. Healing in this context is not about becoming childlike. It's about allowing unfinished parts of development to continue, allowing play without guilt, rest without justification, emotion without strategy. This doesn't happen overnight, but it begins with recognition, with seeing that competence was learned early and that ease can be learned later. The psychology of growing up too fast is not a tragedy. It's a story of intelligence under pressure, of minds that adapted quickly, of inner worlds that learned structure before softness. And those minds don't need to be undone. They need to be balanced. Understanding this changes how you relate to yourself. It changes how you judge your pace. It explains why slowing down can feel uncomfortable, and why you don't need to rush healing either. It's important to say this clearly. Growing up too fast is not a flaw. It is not something that needs to be erased, fixed, or regretted. Psychology doesn't view early maturity as damage. It views it as adaptive intelligence, a system that learned to function under demand. And every adaptation carries strengths. So if you are someone who grew up too fast, don't be too hard on yourself. You adapted, you learned, you became capable earlier than most. That wasn't weakness. That was intelligence responding to circumstance. And now with awareness, you get to soften where you need to, without losing the strength that brought you here. If this video resonated with you or helped you understand yourself a little better, consider liking the video. Subscribe if you want more psychology content where we explore the inner world and the patterns behind human behavior. And if you know someone who could take value from this, feel free to share it with them. Sometimes understanding is the most meaningful thing we can offer.